and hello, you awesome person. My name is Desiree Hunter, and I am so excited to have this opportunity to come to you and to share just some of the experiences that I've had throughout the years that can either impact your life in a positive way or it can encourage you to impact someone else's life. So let's get started. The first show that I wanted to talk about, sometimes you have so many things that you would like to share, like, oh my goodness, I've had so many experiences. What in the world could I just eventually be able to share about this, about this beautiful life? I call it beautiful. I call it scenic because I feel like I've seen it all and still have more to see. But today, I wanted to share about a gentleman that I had the pleasure of meeting. So, just to kind of take you back just a little bit, when I moved to Chicago, it was in 2013. Actually, I want to tell you, it wasn't just 2013, it was during a blizzard. I had received a job offer to work for an insurance company. And of course, there's a whole nother story that goes back behind the insurance company story of how I actually arrived at that position. And I will share that for another podcast. But I do want to tell you that I moved in February of 2013 and I was finding my way. Okay, I am navigating through a city that I thought that I knew because originally I was born and spent the first 10 years of my life in Chicago. So wouldn't it be the same? No, because there was a huge gap in time, which was about 32 years. So let's just kind of go figure 32 years, a lot has changed. And more importantly, I have changed. So I am working for this insurance company. I am trying to find my way throughout the city. I am taking public transportation, and I had heard so many stories that talked about the different encounters that you may have on the bus or the ones that you would have on a train. And me, with my bold self and a little bit naive at the same time, I call it loving naive, I decided to be up for this adventure. Well, what I believe to know that there were so many things that I would encounter as a result of this. So one day, I am at work. I am working for some of the most amazing people that you would ever want to work with in your life. They had accolades that was as long and tall as the Sears Tower. I was privileged to work for a gentleman who was a self-made millionaire. He had made a name for himself, and he worked with a spirit of excellence. Now, I think I need to tell you one little thing. I failed miserably in insurance. I tried because I was trying to make a living for my kids, right? But nothing fails but a try, right? So I'm working for him. I am working again with this great group of people. One day I'm walking down the hall and I decided to go step into one of the offices. It just so happens that I had an opportunity to look down and to see all of these people who look like ants because I'm on the 25th floor, right? And would you believe that so many thoughts came through my mind? One of them was this vision that I used to have for myself is that I would work in a high rise and I would be at the top and I would have my office in a corner and it would just be a lovely day. What I did not realize was that I was in the middle of facing a very important challenge. I was going through something called a divorce, and we can save that for another podcast. But I was going through a divorce. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to navigate through this city, how I'm going to make it in this city. Who would know my name? 25th floor? No one knew me. What in the world was I going to do? Little did I know that God had something for me that day, right? I just happened to go through my norm. I'm looking out the window and I am saying to myself, look at these people. Where are they going? What is transpiring in their lives? How long have they lived here? I mean, seriously, I am standing here thinking all of these things in this one moment. But I was, of course, going back to that vision that I had for myself. And I said to myself, there has got to be more to life than what I am doing. Now, I notice somebody can agree with me on that. We've said it at least one time in our lives. And so this particular day, I was feeling that way. And I was like, it's more to this, right? It is more to this. I felt that there was some type of deeper longing that was in my life. But also, when I think about it at that time, too, it was kind of laced with a little ingratitude. I wasn't being grateful at that moment because my eyes had really taken a turn to focus on where everybody else was and not really where I was, right? So it just so happens that whenever I have moments like that, God takes his little fingers and he just nudged my shoulder like this and be like, girl, I am about to show you something. Okay. And so, would I have ever guessed of what it was that he was about to show me? Would you believe that I would have an encounter at the bus stop? Not just any bus stop, but 47th Street bus stop. Okay. And what I thought was really amazing about that is that, I'm just going through my normal day. I am looking around my environment, doing what the people told me to do, knowing that from time to time I would meet people who were what we call special. Some who had some outlandish stories, some who didn't, some who had truth in their story, or some who were just frustrated with some of the things that were taking place in life. And so I knew for myself that every time that I got on a bus or my feet hit that train that was about to leave me because I was running to it, that I knew that there was something special for me there. I didn't know what, because I know that I am here to give. But what I've known today, on that particular day, that God actually had something for me. So I'm at the bus stop. I'm sitting there. Well, actually, not really sitting there. I am standing there because I'm walking towards there, and there's a group of people that's there. So, of course, what do you do when you see a group of people? You kind of stand over to the side, not really thinking about, I am going to get something, a place to sit or anything like that. But at this particular moment, this one gentleman says to me, he said, hello, you can have a seat right here. And I, trying to be modest, I said, no, thank you. I'm fine. He said, no, not having it. Have a seat. So I sat down and I said, okay, I guess I'm going to be in the middle of their conversation because it was going very well before I arrived there. And would I have the biggest shock of my life? This gentleman looks at me and he said, you work downtown, don't you? And I said to myself, I said, I do. I do work downtown. He said, what do you do? And I said, I am a life insurance agent. Now, let me tell you something. I wasn't just a life insurance agent. I was a struggling life insurance agent, okay? I had no idea of what I was doing. I just knew that I had a heart and I had a long learning curve, right? And I still had not arrived at that space where I felt like I should have been. A little bit different than direct sales, because direct sales, you can kind of go in and it's quick, fast, and you could just, learn and pick up the skill and keep moving. But for me, it was the way that I was looking at it at that time. However, he didn't have to know that I was struggling, but I was. Because not only was I struggling as an agent, I was struggling with myself. Remember? I told you about that divorce that I was going through. So there was a lot of things, a lot of moving parts going on. So he tells me, he said, you know what? He said, I am the heavyweight kickboxer of the world. And me trying to keep a straight face with a smile on my face at the same time, I said, really? And he said, yes, I am. And then by this time, somebody called his name. He said, my name is Manson Gibson. Look me up. Google me. It's there. And so I looked at him and I smiled. And I said, okay, we got to do see today. He's telling me he's the heavyweight kickboxer of the world. And I am like, that is impossible. Because he didn't look like it. He was a skinny young man at that time. Now, when I look back on it, I was like, he didn't have many teeth in the front at the time. Okay, show you how much I know about kickboxing, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this guy don't look like he's the heavyweight kickboxer of the world. But I'm going to be nice to him and I'm going to be just kind. And one thing I knew about me is that I am going to be super obedient. And as soon as he left, I pulled out that phone and I looked up Manson Gibson, and voila, he was the heavyweight kickboxing champion of the world. And I am saying to myself, what? I got so intrigued and I started looking him up, and and as I was reading about him and I saw all of his accolades, and I thought, my grandmother, my mother, everybody around me told me you should never, ever, ever judge a book by its cover. And here I am looking at this guy in amazement. This can't be him. Not at all, because he doesn't look like a heavyweight kickboxing champion of the world. When I got home, I cannot tell you how I felt like God had kissed me. Now, to some people, it'll be like, well, how did that happen? This man went around the world. He went around the world. And I am going to share just a little bit about some of the things that he did. He was so amazing. He was so amazing. He was considered as the Black Bruce Lee. How cool is that? I just want to share with you a little bit about what Wikipedia said. This is partial of the information that I have of him at this particular time. But when I mentioned to you that he was considered the Black Bruce Lee, he traveled in other countries from in the 1980s through the 1990s. And now he's considered retired, but this man was phenomenal. He had 119 fights and won 103 of them. And one of the things that he was known for was his unpredictability, right? Now, would that ring a bell? He was unpredictable even on the day that I met him, of just coming out, just out of nowhere, just meeting him and talking to him. And, and he had these elements that they talked about, like the way that he spun, and it was just a different, technique that he used that made him to be considered America's greatest kickboxer. And I think that this is something very interesting. And when I think about that, he had over 100 wins, he had 80 knockouts. And the title of what he had, which was exciting, is that he had the Kick Super Middleweight World Championship. That was one of the titles that he had, having only 2 losses at that particular time. To know that he went, and he told me, he said, I've been around the world. And if you could have seen the way his face lit up, I mean, it was just amazing to see someone talk a little bit about their life before my bus came and before he had to leave. And, now he still resides in the city of Chicago, I believe, but he's retired. And so to think about what type of impact that he made in the lives of others. And I had to tell you that at one point I went to Facebook and I was looking for him shortly afterwards to see if, where I could find him, just to tell him how much he had inspired me, that one moment that we had together. And I did see a couple of pictures that were online. And so what you will find is that you will see that it will be attached to this link, just to show a few pictures of him, to show how he not only someone believed in him, and then he went out and gave the world another piece of him. How awesome is that? And I like to leave with, and to be reminded of just how those nudges that God give us, that even being at the bus stop that day, I probably wanted to stay downtown for a little while afterwards, after work, but I was obedient to going home. And would you believe, from those moments of following what God was telling me to do at that time, that nudging of saying, I need you to do this next, I ended up meeting someone else who was very phenomenal, just for a few minutes. And that will definitely be in another show. So I want to leave you with knowing that you never know who it is that you are about to meet. You never know who it is who is about to meet you. But if you just continue to follow those little nudges, the ones that are telling you to go to the next step, the ones that are saying, sit here for just 5 more minutes, you never know where that is going to lead you. You never know who that is going to take you to. Who knows? It might not be the world's heavyweight kickboxing champion that you will meet, but it may be someone else who would impact your life. And then years to come, themselves will be saying, I met her or I met him. She impacted my life that day. She wasn't in a hurry. She wasn't rushed. She wasn't ready to go. She wasn't afraid of who she was going to meet that day. But she took the time to sit and listen. And boy, oh boy, what happens as a result of that when we do that. So I look forward to us connecting on the next show that actually highlights the